In an insightful address, Professor Justin Robinson, Pro-Vice Chancellor Principal of the University of West Indies Five Island campus, explored the connection between crime, economic development, and social stability in Caribbean nations. His lecture, entitled Resilience and Shared Prosperity, Implications and Imperatives for Small Island Developing States, focused on key challenges facing the region, with crime being a focal issue.
What I call a triple C crisis that we are confronted, where you have the climate crisis, and a lot has been said about that, the chronic non-communicable disease crisis. Caribbean person, we don't only have the fastest athletes in the world or most beautiful beaches, but we have some of the highest rates of hypertension, diabetes, again, which all erode our social capital. And the final C, the crime crisis. The Caribbean is an incredibly violent place. Caribbean people are the most warm, loving, fun people in the world, but we murder each other at amazing rates.
The scholar lamented that the rising crime rates in the region are a serious issue, hindering the economic progress that has been made.
And it's something we don't want to normalize. I was having that conversation earlier, because someone was saying, when you look at the crime per capita, it looks very high. But 20 murders a year in St. Kitts is way too much. I mean, I lived and studied in Manchester for 4 years. And homicides was not something I read about in the papers. I mean, you really don't have, well, when I was there, you really didn't have a murder a month in a big place like Manchester. If you go to places like Japan, the homicide rate is very low. So I would argue that we are plagued by this triple C crisis, which undermines a lot of the gains that we have made.
In his lecture, Professor Robinson suggested that the region's economic vulnerability, coupled with social inequality, creates a fertile ground for crime to thrive.
Shared prosperity focuses a lot on the living standards of the less affluent and marginalized groups within our society. In particular, we tend to want to look at what is income growth at the bottom 40% of the income distribution. And one of the things I suggest is that we really don't know this in the Caribbean. We have very little data on our income distribution, what is happening at the lower levels of that distribution, so that we can have targeted and informed policy. And I have a sneaking hypothesis that some of our crime crisis could be linked to what is happening in that bottom part of our income distribution.
Across the Caribbean, crime has become a growing concern. In countries where tourism and trade are key to economic survival, rising violence has started to erode the trust between citizens and government. From escalating gang warfare to violent crimes, many islands in the region are seeing a disturbing trend that threatens to undermine decades of economic progress. Professor Robinson's call for resilience is not only a plea for economic reform, but a call for stronger community engagement, better law enforcement, and a renewed focus on education and youth development. For Choice News Now, I am Dyrud Lionel.